So, before you call me a hater, hear me out. This isn't about hating women, hating strong characters, or wanting every hero to be the same. This is about a pattern. A pattern that Hollywood keeps repeating and one that's slowly killing a genre that used to feel special. Because let's be honest with each other for a second. Female-led superhero movies as a whole are in trouble. And I don't think it's some big conspiracy or audiences are sexist narrative that people love to throw around. I think it's simpler than that. A lot simpler. I think the movies are just ass. And when they're not good over and over, people stop showing up. Let's start with one of the obvious reasons, the track record, because at some point you have to stop calling it bad luck and start calling it a pattern. Wonder Woman 1984 was supposed to be a victory lap. First Wonder Woman was genuinely great, one of the best superhero movies of that entire era, and honestly people were excited. And then 1984 happened, a bloated runtime, a villain arc that made zero sense, a plot device that undid consequences without a shrug, a terrible representation of Wonder Woman's best villain, Cheetah, and overall just a very lackluster ending. It wasn't just disappointing, it was ass, and a major step down from the first film. Then you've got The Marvels, one of the MCU's worst ever movies. It absolutely tanked, one of the lowest opening domestic numbers in MCU history. It literally lost over like $200 million. And it wasn't because people were boycotting it out of spite. Yeah, Phase 4 was pretty shit so far, but people were still intrigued in the property. It's because the trailers looked messy and the leads were just not appealing at all. Captain Marvel left a lot of people lukewarm. She had time to shine in Endgame, and people still never got attached to her. Then you have Ms. Marvel, who had a Disney Plus show that no one watched, and honestly didn't feel like it was made for anyone except children and women. Then you throw in Monica Rambeau, who casual audiences don't even have a clue as to who she is because she was a side character in a Disney Plus show that had nothing to do with her. So you have all three leads who are pretty unknown or pretty unlikable in their own ways, and that's not exactly a recipe for success. And then you have the most recent female-led superhero movie, Supergirl. Another one that stumbled out of the gate, one of the worst openings of the year. It's doing absolutely horrible at the box office right now. It's another superhero movie where the marketing struggled to build excitement, and another one where the final product left a lot of fans shrugging instead of cheering. The lead actress Millie Alcott's comments on the core audience as well didn't help the situation. And on top of all that, it just wasn't a good time to make a Supergirl movie when the only movie you've done in your DC universe is Superman. There's at least like 10 other heroes I would focus on developing and creating established universes in this DC universe before Supergirl. So here's the thing, when you stack up these back to back to back, you start to see why people are losing confidence. It's not that one bad movie ruins a genre, it's when you get 3, 4, 5 shaky releases in a row, the executives start getting nervous. It becomes this vicious cycle of just shit female projects being made because they're pandering instead of trying to tell a real story. Which leads me nicely into the forced feminism that kills the storytelling in all of these films. Writers seem to forget that characters are supposed to struggle. And this needs to be said. A lot of these movies, even the ones where a woman isn't technically the lead, still end up shifting the entire focus onto female characters in a way that throws the story out of balance. Marvel has been famous for this. For example, America Chavez, Captain Marvel, Cassie Lang, Gamora in Guardians 3. The list goes on and on. Suddenly the mentor gets sidelined, the male lead's arc gets rushed or watered down, and a supporting character gets the entire subplot, a big speech, or a hero moment that the story never actually built toward. Or they're just completely invisible, or just way better than their male counterpart in every single way. And here's the thing, it's not that audiences don't want to see strong female characters. We clearly do. Look at Black Widow, look at the first Wonder Woman movie. They worked because they felt like real characters in real stories who were trying to fit into a world instead of trying to stick out. The problem is when it feels like it's being inserted, when it feels less like storytelling and more like a checklist. Not because the story called for it, but because someone in a boardroom decided the film needed to make a statement. And audiences can feel that. They can feel when something is there because the story earned it versus when it's there because it's trying to prove a point. It also just does a disservice to the characters too, because instead of feeling like a hero, you just end up being a Mary Sue. And this brings me to maybe the biggest issue of them all, stakes, or should I say the complete lack of them. A good superhero movie at its core needs one thing. We have to believe the hero can lose. Tension comes from doubt, from watching someone get knocked down, question themselves, bleed a little, fail, and find a way to get back up anyway. That's what made Iron Man's ending in Endgame so impactful. That's what made Logan devastating. You feel the stakes and they drive emotion. There's no version of the story where she loses something that matters, no real cost, no moment where you're sitting there in the theater, oh no, this might not work out. And when there's no risk, there's no reward. It's not about wanting to see a woman get her ass kicked on screen for shock value. That's not the point at all. It's about narrative tension. It's about earning the victory. When a character feels untouchable from the very first scene, the entire movie feels it. So when you take into account everything that I just mentioned, you get exactly what you're seeing right now. Audiences pulling back, and a genre that used to feel fresh and exciting is starting to feel like a chore to sit through. Supergirl bombed, like terribly bombed, and it's going to keep happening if you put out shit movies that don't tell any good stories. Honestly, Supergirl was damned from the start because all the other female-led movies over the past couple of years already put a bad taste in people's mouths. But that's not going to change the fact that it will lose a lot of money, and it kind of puts James Gunn's DCU at kind of a halt. And look, I want the DCU to work. I'm not out here rooting for these movies to fail. I grew up loving these characters. I want to see them done justice on screen, but you can't just release a project and expect people to show up out of obligation. Give the characters real stakes. Let them lose. Let them be flawed. Let her struggle. Let her actually be a hero instead of just a message. If you guys want to hear how I think the DCU should go from here, let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching this video.